Well, Michelle, unbelievably, and I think this hasn't happened before, certainly for my time covering politics, and Michelle, that's at least 20 years, and other wiser heads are saying longer than that. The government and the SNP have effectively picked up their own footballs and walked off the pitch. Labour are now, we think, voting on their own amendment unchallenged. This is because there's concern in the House about the way Speaker Lindsay Hoyle managed to allow Labour to amend what is an opposition day debate, shouldn't be allowed to be amended by a second opposition party. Big concerns, and this place has gone a bit febrile. Outside in the members' lobby, Tory MPs, SNP MPs are wandering around. In the voting lobbies right now, we think Labour's voting on their own. Extraordinary times. With me now is Brendan Clark-Smith, the former party deputy chairman. Brendan, what on earth just happened in the House of Commons?
Well, I mean, I've not seen anything like this before myself, and this is completely unprecedented, certainly in my time. A lot of very angry people here today. We were expecting an opposition day from the Scottish National Party. They feel that's been taken over now by the Labour Party. That's not what the procedure normally is. Normally, if you're a smaller party, of course, you get the chance to vote on your own opposition day, and then the government or another opposition party may try and amend that and say, well, we prefer another set of words. Otherwise, you'd never get to vote on your own thing. So procedurally, that's the way it's done. It's only twice, I think, in the last 25 years that there's been a slight change, and that's when the government hasn't tried to change it. So what happened with the Speaker this morning, we said again, is fairly unprecedented, and this is why everybody is so angry. So SNP and the Conservatives very much united here. The SNP walked out the chamber, we followed them straight after, so there's a bit of solidarity there, but this isn't right, and this isn't why we became members of Parliament.
And was Speaker Lindsay Hoyle in the chair when that happened, or was his deputy, Rosie Winterton?
Well, the Deputy Speaker was there, and this is the point. So a number of people raised points of order, said, where is the Speaker? We'd like him to explain his decision. Now, the Clerk of the House of Commons, he's given his reasons there. He said this is not something that goes with procedure normally. This is not the way it works. He gave his advice. He published that. I think if you read the letter, really, the first paragraph and the last paragraph particularly are quite damning. Now, our concern is that there's been some pressure that's been exerted there. Maybe there's something a little bit more sinister, whether it's about the Speaker's position, whether he'd be removed after a general election or so on. And we feel that Labour have perhaps bullied their way through this, and that is the real concern. So a number of people raising points of order on the floor, say not just Conservatives, many of the SNP are there. They are truly outraged about this. So we want to know what's happened with this, and we think this sets a really, really bad precedent. So where we go from here, I don't know.
Well, both those claims are denied both by the Speaker's office and by the Labour Party of pressure brought to bear on the Speaker. But it is true, isn't it, that the Speaker is up, that job is up for grabs after the general election. What's his future now? Has he lost the confidence of the House of Commons?
Well, I think there's a lot of very angry people there, and those are questions that are going to have to be answered. You know, certainly in terms of the Speaker, someone I actually personally like and respect and so on, and then something like this comes along, and you have to say, this is not how we expect it. There were people chanting "Bring back Bercow" earlier, and I think that's
John Bercow, the Speaker during the Brexit wars when it was very controversial. His role was controversial.
Exactly, it's got to be pretty bad for that. And then, of course, what actually also happened tonight is the government, as you know, Penny Mordaunt announced this, that we were actually withdrawing our amendment. So what that meant is there was only the Labour and the SNP one left. So SNP quite rightly then asked, well, can we vote on ours first then? That's the normal way that the procedure goes. That would be basically how you would expect things to go. That would be fair, but there's been no change. So they asked whether the House could be suspended while that decision was made. No decision has been made, so they chose to walk out, and I completely respect that, and I support them with that as well.
Taking a step back, Brendan, this is politics in an election year. That's why this stuff happens. But there are people dying in Gaza. Israel's role is being scrutinised. Do you think this reflects badly on the House of Commons?
Yes, I think it does. I think as well it's about respecting the institution. We heard that a lot for various things over the last couple of years or so on. And this is the public are looking at this and they say, what on earth is actually going on here? So I was speaking to a couple of the SNP members on the way out, and we said we have quite different positions, really. I think we all want to see civilian deaths stopping. We'd all like to see some form of ceasefire. We disagree how to do that. We have actually almost polar opposite views on how that should be done tonight, which we were going to vote on. But we both agreed that actually we should be able to vote on this and we should do it properly. We shouldn't have these procedural arguments, and it's just turned into a political circus.
Could there be a vote, do you think, or a debate on the position of the Speaker in the House of Commons shortly.
That's possible. I know that EDM's been tabled. I know a lot of people have signed that. I think people deserve answers, certainly. That's why we asked for the House to be suspended, why we'd like the Speaker to come back and maybe explain the rationale behind some of those decisions. I know a lot of MPs have been getting abuse. There's thousands of people outside. We've been having marches, and we completely get that about MP safety. But what I'd also say is these opposition days, we've had them about sewage, we've had them about free school meals and so on.
EU referendum, by the way, back in the day, which I remember, very difficult for the governing party then.
Absolutely. I've had targeted attack ads on me saying that I voted a certain way, and that's what opposition days are for. They're there to try and either trip up the government or trip up somebody else, and that's what you expect. But today there's been some serious sort of shifting around there, and I think this has caused some very serious problems, and I think it will go a lot further than just tonight's vote.
The lesson here for the Speaker, don't change the rules in Parliament, really, when it looks like it's helping one side, not the others.
Well, absolutely, and I think some people suggested there could be a number of front-bench resignations from Labour. I'd heard figures of around 80 or 90 people were looking at rebelling that. There's rumours that, Keir Starmer had said thank you for this earlier. He'll be breathing a sigh of relief when it was actually announced that the votes were going to be in the order that they were. It's probably a little nuanced at home, people thinking, what's all this about amendments and so on? And it doesn't make sense to people on the door. So I think what I'd say to them is that the process hasn't been followed properly. We believe that people have been cheated out of it, and this is completely wrong. There should be some accountability there.
Is it time for an apology from the Speaker to the House of Commons?
Well, we'll see. I think certainly an explanation, and that's what we wanted. We hear that he's back tomorrow. Perhaps he'll use that as an opportunity to do that.
Well, thank you, Brendan Clark-Smith there. Well, Brendan Clark-Smith there, trying to explain to viewers and listeners at home for GB News what on earth has happened in the House of Commons. For me, it's a straightforward lesson. Don't change the rules and look like you're favouring one side. It always goes wrong.